Sawtooth Dave. What's up, y'all? Hope y'all had a good week. We're like basically a half week away from being at Blade Show. So I'll be flying out Thursday to be there. Wearing my Blade Show tee. I know y'all ain't going, probably sick of hearing it. I'm sorry, I'm going. I'm super excited about it. I'm super excited to meet the ones of you guys that hadn't been there before. If you've never been there before, you hear a lot of people say it, but I just got to say it like this. Like, you owe yourself as a knife lover to go at least once to one of the shows. Like, it doesn't have to be Blade Atlanta. Blade Atlanta is by far one of the biggest. I've not been to a whole lot of other ones, so I can't compare to, being in person. But what I've seen in video, Atlanta is way bigger. I got family in Atlanta, so for me, it's like a family vacation and Blade Show on top of it. So it's like the icing on the cake for me. You just can't go wrong like that for me, anyhow. So I think this week I'm gonna do something a little bit out of my character and kind of, I don't know, maybe discuss something that maybe I avoid. I usually try to stay on the positive side of things with knives, and I don't think it's going to be a negative. It's just, my thoughts, I guess. So, politically this week, it's been kind of a crazy week, and I don't talk about politics. So what I want to talk about is American made versus imported, and what that means, to you. Just my thoughts. This is just off the cuff. I ain't playing nothing. So just something I want to discuss for a while, right? So American made, I showed my Grayman to start off with. So American made, who made that knife? Grayman didn't. Grayman farmed that out. So are all these pieces made in America? What parts aren't made in America? You're never really going to know. It's not, the transparency of this is not like it is now. Like now it's a little more, I think people are a little more open with the whole, well, we imported this and this got made here. Even if they're secret OEMs, that, basically like people pretty much figure it out if they don't know already. But there was a controversy once upon a time that Grayman was importing stuff. So whether it was or it wasn't, I don't know. And I guess what triggered this to me was like, I still get comments on that stupid Hoback video I did, like, I don't know, 3 years ago or something, 2.5 years ago or something, where, Hoback, got busted for importing parts. And okay, he didn't claim they were American made, but didn't correct anybody that they weren't American made. But his early career, everything was American made. I don't know, like, it's still kind of a little bit of a gray area for me, like, as a person. I know people like him, like his personality, like his company, like his knives, which is all good, because I think there's a couple ways of looking at knives. You can look at knives as just the tool. You go to my toolbox out here, that's not all American made. I have a ton of imports. Matter of fact, like Mitutoyo calipers, Starrett calipers, Brown & Sharps, like they all have varying degrees of made in America or not made in America or imported or whatever. But all three of those calipers I just mentioned, or mics or whatever you want to call it, they're all high quality that I'll use any of them. Undiscrepanly, don't care if they're made in America, Switzerland, wherever they're made now. I don't know, so as a tool, does it make it any less of a tool because it's not manufactured here? Like, you can criticize something, say like, well, a knife. A lot of people say Chinese have bad heat treats and that sort of thing. But like, if they're not now, eventually they will get caught up, and it will be as on the same level or above the same level as what you see from production makers here, which is kind of sort of the same bag you're in here. It's just I guess there's a ton of Chinese companies too, but it seems like that there's major companies that do a lot of the, production work, and their reputation is kind of known as good or bad for heat treat, which kind of sort of the same here, right? Like, so let's just take Spyderco. They're pretty much known for good heat treats at this point, but they've had controversy in the past about heat treats. Strider's pretty much, from what I can tell, have always had good heat treats, like from reputation wise. Like, I've never had an issue with any Strider. But then you take Henders, and it's like across the board, people have different opinions. So I kind of throw that out the window, that whole heat treat philosophy. I think it's up to the individual company to set a quality standard and meet that quality standard, regardless. Like, from a manufacturing point of view, it really doesn't matter as long as you know what it is. Then you're your choice whether you want to buy that product for more or less money because of the stats that it's put on. So as just a tool, like production quality, it's super price wise. It's a super divide. There's a big, huge divide between the quality of, say, a budget American made knife. And I'm just going to use this one because I don't know if it was a budget knife at one point or not, but this little buck right here, like, I don't think this is a super high dollar buck. Maybe it was, but I don't think it was a super high dollar buck. But like something like this, to manufacture first, let's say, even a Civivi or, you know, something along those, Senka, whatever. I don't know. I'm not into the stuff, so I'm kind of talking out my ass a little bit. But I've seen a few of them. They're high quality, like a Kubi. Like, you know, like you get a lot for what you're paying for the money. So you can't really compete on the dollar for dollar ratio. And that's kind of like the whole world economy type thing. Get into that stuff and it's like, it kind of goes more political than I really care to. But like, our choices weren't made for us, by us. They were made for politicians, you know, 20, 30, 40 years ago. Like, we're just living what they already changed. So it is what it is. Like, it's, you know, like depending on what country you live in, like we're lucky enough. Most of my viewers are probably American. I'm definitely American. Otherwise, you probably wouldn't have this conversation if you're, say, Canadian, because Canadian made, I mean, there are companies, but above and beyond, there's like more variety of American versus Chinese, probably overall than the rest of the world, I would think, you know, like as a whole. So those are the two like competing factions, I guess you would say. But like, you know, like if you're Canadian, like you don't really have a dog in the fight, right? Like you just want the quality of the tool. Anyway, I'm going on a side tangent, but you know, the money part, what I was getting at is like, in a world economy, the person that can produce the best part at the cheapest rate that's, you know, does the work. And that's pretty much what's happening with China versus America. Like, I'm recording this on like a over $1,000 phone, like, and you probably have one you're watching this on, or a computer that's worth probably more that you're watching it on, you know, or whatever device you're watching it on. So like, do those people that live in those countries have the luxuries we have to watch this kind of stuff? Like, I don't know, like things to make you think, right? Okay, so y'all know, if you don't, I was machinist for almost 30 years, like pretty much time I got out of the Navy to, you know, last few years, and I still do part-time here and there, but not really for the same shop anymore. So pride in your work is like, as an American machinist, you can see from the time I got started, like if you weren't willing to put in extra work, you didn't get shown anything. So in order to become a good machinist, unless you just inherently picked it up, you could watch somebody do something and pick it up and go. Like if you had to have another machinist teach you how to do something, which is the way it was back when I first started learning. If you sucked as a worker, they weren't showing you nothing. So you had to earn every bit of knowledge you had. Like it literally was earned all the way up through it. And now today, which is, you know, predominantly CNC. There's still manual machining out there, but predominantly CNC stuff, which is kind of a whole different bag. Like you got to be good at computers, at least the program side of it, and somewhat on the controls too. You have to be at least somewhat savvy or figure your way around things. I was pretty much more of the guy on the controls. I didn't do as much of programming in my career. Like I did like a couple programs here and there, and you know, do small simple things. But like I was not the one programming, you know, prototype parts. There's production engineers that pretty much specialize in most of the companies I work for. So the skill level, it kind of was a divide in there. So you could be a real good machinist and not be a programmer. You could be a programmer and not be a machinist. And then there was a few that were good programmers and good machinists that kind of met in the middle. I was more of the machinist, less of the programmer. The younger kids are definitely heavier on the programming, better with computers, and less skilled in the shop. But by far and large, the, you know, effort to become a machinist, to learn these skills and become a better, the willingness of the worker to put the time in is becoming less and less. Like the work ethic is decreasing. I think that's across the board as Americans. I think work ethic's taking a dive. But, you know, what do we do for money when you don't even have the knowledge to produce a part? So I guess some of me, especially in the American made front, hopes that, you know, companies are successful so that they can keep this knowledge relevant. You know, certain areas of the country that have more shops have more custom makers, because a lot of these people learn from these working at production shops and then started doing their own stuff. You know, everybody's, you know, kind of journey into the knife making themselves as individuals, custom makers is different. But I'm sure throughout history, a lot of people have learned from factory work and applied it to knife making. You know, I'm not made really a knife yet, but if I get there, when I get there, that's exactly what I've had all the experience with factories, which are just machine shops, throughout the years, applying that knowledge towards a certain part. But, throughout the years, I could have made any one of these parts and not known what it even was until, I understood the whole product. So, what am I trying to say here? I guess the as a machinist, I have a lot of pride with other American-made parts because I know some other person, whether they're experienced more than me or less than me, they either learned or QC'd, ran a program that was made by something like that, another part, American-made part, and it kind of makes me feel like it's full circle. When I worked as a machinist, I would definitely concentrate on American-made knives because that's supporting my own industry, right? Not necessarily what I did. I never, to my knowledge, made any knife parts, but I did a lot of automotive, a lot of aerospace, hydraulics, like a lot of the stuff that's like, some of the stuff's gone by the wayside, quite honestly, and manufacturing as a whole has moved away from this country. And I just worry about that lack of knowledge going bad because there are certain people that are always going to do it, but to go from not knowing nothing to be able to go to that skill level, so like defense contracts. Here locally, Raytheon's one of the big defense contractors here, and a lot of the little shops around here do little parts for them, especially the one-off stuff. Not top secret stuff because that's all done in-house, but like, if they're trying to develop something, they might job it out to a shop. You might need a cone of a missile or, a fin that goes onto a projectile. It could be any number of things, but nothing that's top secret goes out to those shops. But, you're still doing cutting edge, leading type machining. And if you don't have these abilities, you're not going to be able to do this kind of thing. So like in the future, is there going to be enough people that have that ability, both as a machinist and as a programmer, to kind of combine and be able to do this stuff? So that's the kind of things that makes me worry, I guess, in the future. It's just, some immediate thoughts basically on American made. But as a functional tool, like I think as, just as a tool point of view, the Chinese do really good work for really inexpensive prices compared to the American counterpart. And it's not really a whole lot that either side is going to do to change that. I mean, obviously China's going to keep increasing the price, as they gain more and more of the market and have more and more work, they're going to just start charging more for it. And if there's not the knowledge of people here to be able to compete with that, then they're going to get what they want for it. So sooner or later, they're going to price themselves up to a level where other people can compete. And to a certain degree, like the higher end Chinese knives used to be all sub 300, almost all. And now you see them pretty, frequently now, 400, 500, creeping up 600, some of these higher end Chinese knives. Some of it's the materials they're using, but some of it's just that they can charge that much because there's no really competition that's at production level. Custom makers is a whole different ball game. To me, custom makers, I don't really care where you're at and what country you're at. Like, it's all how good you are with what the equipment you have is. And that's all been proven to me. Like, I've kind of gone over the whole Croatian makers and stuff. I've seen some of them, but some of the equipment they have is, relatively crude compared to what we have access to here in this country. Not necessarily that you have in your shop, but you have access to it. And some of the stuff they have, they're producing, outstanding results with a lot less equipment. And like, just for instance, because I follow him on Instagram, talked to a couple times, but Donnie Bless, like if you look at what he does with like a minimal amount of equipment, the dude's skilled and his drive is higher than what the equipment he has is. Like, if he had real equipment, knew how to use the real equipment to the same proficiency that he uses his less what we call it, less precision equipment that he has right now, he would be on a whole different level above so many different people. And he's got the drive. I guarantee he'll get there if he keeps driving like he is. Like, he'll get there. He's going to be one of the top-notch guys to kind of watch out for in the future, I think. It's, I don't know. The whole American-made thing is just like, when I walk around my shop, like, look at the stuff I have, even looking at my Harley, like, there's so many parts on it that aren't American-made now. And, you can't just say Harley's American-made because it wouldn't run electronically at all if it didn't import parts. The suspension is all imported. Like, there are American counterparts, but that's not what Harley uses. So, like, braking, imported. Like, it's just weird, man. Like, just to sit here and think that American-made means what it used to when I was growing up. And I think that's the biggest thing for me is, like, I was, raised to think a certain way, to act a certain way, and support my country in a certain way. And I think pretty much those ways have changed. dramatically since I was a kid. I'm 50, so growing up in say the 70s and 80s, like whole different world than what it is now. Um, so yeah, I mean, I have Chinese knives now. When I think about it, honestly, it kind of disheartens me a little bit. Like, but what I've got from China, I've kind of been selective about what I've kept from China. I value not only the machine work in it, but the quality of the overall tool. And it's my style. So like I have them. It took me a long time to get to this point. Like I think, I want to say this past year, from maybe a little over a year, but I started letting, Chinese knives kind of come into the collection a little bit. And this past year, I kind of like, indulged a little bit. I gave quite a few away at my 1K celebration and that sort of thing. But I don't know, man. Like, it still bothers me to some degree, I guess, mentally. I have more pride with the American tool in my pocket, even though it might be an inferior tool to the Chinese counterpart of whatever. What I'm talking about basically is production style. When it comes to customs, it's kind of a different ball game, and in my mind, anyhow. Like, but then again, like even at customs, like I've heard people like, let's just take Medford because he's the easy one. He's not really custom; it's more production too. But they like to call themselves, I guess, custom. I guess they're customizable production. Does that sound like a good way of putting it? But a lot of people. He's very controversial. A lot of people think he's very controversial about his thoughts. To me, he's just speaking his mind. And if you like it, you like it. And if you don't, you don't. Like, to me, I can look past that. Like, I don't have to be your buddy to like a tool that you make. Simple. Like, I get it if you don't want to support the guy for your reasons. But at the same time, you're going to turn around and buy, in all rights, an enemy of our country's product to support more of their, the profits go to that country. What's more important, like the guy's different opinion of you politically or supporting the enemy? So, I don't know. I don't, when it comes down to like some individuals' reasons for not supporting certain makers, and it comes down to a personal choice. That's your choice to make for sure. But I just think that's kind of silly in the big scheme of things when you'd rather support like, arbitrarily something you don't have to know about, your blind eye towards, versus somebody who just thinks slightly different than you. Like, I think if everybody thought the same way, the world would suck, So I'm not trying to convince anybody to think like I am. I'm just speaking my mind, I guess. All right, I'm just kind of like side skirting the whole thing, I guess, as much as I can. I guess I'm just giving thoughts out. I don't know. But, I'm kind of curious about your thoughts. Do you care about American made? Does it mean something to you still like it used to? Like, it does to me, whether I, support by buying some Chinese knives or not. Like I fully plan on, like, once again, supporting friends of mine in the community that are building knives that are in my style. Like I'm going to support them. But if they don't have the means to make their knife in America or have a facility to make it in America and they get their knife made in China and it's still a good tool, like I'm still going to support them. I may or may not keep it in permanent collection, but I'm still going to support those guys the best I can, like, I don't know. It's been a kind of weird video, huh? But it's a good one to go on Blade Show with, I think. Speaking of which, Blade Show, y'all got anything picked out? The people y'all going? People that are going. You got anything picked out in particular? Instagram's, the ton of makers are putting their stuff out there, especially if you're into custom knives. Like the customs that are coming out now that the people are going to bring to Blade Show. There's just so many. It's ridiculous, man. So, I've already talked about it a couple weeks ago when I borrowed Carco Chris's Durac steel. Dario's coming. This is the first Blade Show he's going to be at. He's Croatian maker, and he's posted some knives up. And actually, I was talking to Allison about this last weekend. It's like, out of the knives he picked up, I picked the one I like appearance-wise the most. And then he showed a collection of like all what he had built, and it was smaller. And I was like, that kind of blew that up. But he's shown a couple more that have been like really intriguing. Miller Brothers have shown quite a few that are like, because I borrowed Jose's a while back. I wasn't 100% into 100% of that knife, but like the right price, the right one, plain enough for me to do what I want to do with it on top of their stuff, might be enticing to me. I don't know what I'm going to go after, man. Like, I got to be conscious of money. I need to fix some CNCs. I want to get into heat treat. There's all the different kind of stuff I want to get into. So I'm kind of excited what this weekend turns into, but I'm going to leave it at that. 20 minutes of me just kind of running my mouth. Yeah, 2 weeks in a row, read my mouth. There may or may not be a video next week. That just depends, you know. Like I'll probably be hanging out with Pop. Probably maybe my brothers might be there too, and maybe they'll go to the Blade Show too. Maybe we'll get the opinion of them, or you know, maybe some other buddies that are local here in Atlanta. We'll go. Maybe I'll meet you guys, get your opinion when you're there. Like I don't know. We'll see what happens, I guess. But it quite possibly might be, you know, no video next week. I got a giveaway, and I started to do this video with the giveaway too, but I was like, dang, you know, like let's just wait till after Blade, because who knows, I might pick up something at Blade to throw in there too. But all right, we're gonna call it there. I can't believe I've just rambled for 20 minutes about pretty much nothing, but yeah, another one of those videos this week. So see y'all Blade if you're gonna be at Blade. If you're not gonna be at Blade, hey man, try to make plans to at least, you know, go at least once. Highly recommended. And I'll see you on whenever I see you again. All right, a couple weeks or something. All right, y'all be cool. Later.